Why do you believe people aren't always mentally resilient these days?
Necessarily believe that people are less resilient than the previous generations. They are often facing different challenges. We do live in a world where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others through social media, and there is pressure to succeed academically and professionally. Financial uncertainty, and there is that feeling that we do need to have everything figured out at a young age. Through a psychological perspective, resilience is not about being strong. It is about how we interpret setbacks and whether we do believe that we can cope with them. Cognitive behavioral therapy explains that our thoughts influence our emotions and behaviors. So if someone constantly tells themselves, I'm not good enough or I'll never succeed, those thoughts will come back automatic and it will affect how we respond to challenges. So a lot of the beliefs that we have, they do begin in childhood. So if a child grows up being encouraged after making a mistake, they will be more likely to see the failure as part of learning. But if there's a child that grows up that is constantly criticized or they're told they're incapable, they'll begin to avoid those challenges altogether. But it doesn't mean that resilience cannot be developed later. It can, but our experience early on in life shapes the foundation. Would you say that social media itself is the problem, or is it more about how people use it?
I believe social media, it's not bad, it's just how we necessarily use it. It gives us tools for learning, but I believe nowadays people use obviously social media to connect with others, but then as a result of it, they shape their lives. For example, by feeling that if one person shows that they are all happy on social media, they believe that. But then that person might not be happy. So I believe it's if you're using it to create an image for yourself, then you should cut down or you should relearn how you use it. You should more learn to just use it for either communicating with friends or whatever, just influence people, but don't don't always believe everything you see, because the more, as said, right, there's a mention in the social comparison theory that if we compare ourselves to everyone, that will then create the sense and impression that, well, that everyone is what they seem. So we can say we're millionaires, but no, we can be poor. So I believe don't always believe everything others say.
And why
So
do you think that some people are more able to bounce back from these challenges while others they struggle to?
So obviously everyone's different. Everyone has a different lifestyle. Everyone has different ways in how they teach themselves and learn. Some people grow up in a household where it's very supportive. Their families are always there. They sort of build those blocks that they need to then, as a result of it, become successful because they have obviously the people around. However, I believe the people that don't bounce back, they don't necessarily have a low confidence. They don't have the tools yet to succeed, which they need to build up. And the people, unfortunately, who have been in tough situations, obviously then it's more difficult for them to bounce back because they don't have any support system. They don't have any people they can rely on, or they don't know how to use the people around. When do you believe mental resilience is either formed or breaks down?
So I believe that resilience it does start developing in childhood. That is when we begin to form the beliefs about ourselves and the world. So children they don't just learn the facts. They learn how to respond to the challenges. They watch the adults and whatever's around them. So if a child feels supported or they're praised for their effort, rather than just the results that they have, they will learn that the mistakes are the opportunities for them to grow. They will become more willing to take risks and persevere when things are difficult. But on the other hand, resilience can break down at any stage of life. So, for example, trauma, burns out, repeated setbacks, lack of support, these can all affect the ability for someone to cope. So, the important thing to remember is resilience is not fixed. So, if we look at neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to constantly adapt, we will learn healthier ways of thinking and responding to challenges throughout our lives. So, do you think that parents are the biggest role in developing it?
Yes, I believe parents obviously have quite a bit of navigation, I think, in obviously how it can be formed and strengthened, but it can, as I said, also break it down. Because if you're told as a child your dreams are, say, too big, it won't happen, that mental resilience goes away. You start believing, oh, why can I, say, have a business and not work in a 9 to 5 job? You start to feel your dreams are impossible because you keep getting told that you sort of shouldn't have those dreams because you might fail. But that's where believe parents can also encourage children. Take that chance. Okay, don't see failure as failure, see it as a lesson.
Do you think it's ever too late to develop the resilience? Let's say like later on in life.
Not at all. I think we obviously, as people, believe there's a time limit for how long we have to become resilient, how long we have to develop resilience. But I think it can be, you can develop it even today, even tomorrow, because all you need is that foundation for what words you're going to tell yourself, what words you're going to hear. Because the moment you start believing what everyone says, like, oh, you're not good enough, or believe that untold lie that you can't make it, that's when it breaks down. That's when you sort of break down. Obviously, talking about resilience, how do you define being mentally fit?
Being mentally fit is, for me, it doesn't mean never experiencing the stress or anxiety or self doubt. It's the having the ability to manage those feelings without letting them control your decisions. So if you look at physical fitness, for example, it requires regular training, and mental fitness is something we build through the consistent habits. It can be challenging negative thoughts, practicing self reflection, asking for support when needed, or maybe even continuing to take that action despite feeling uncomfortable. Mentally fit people, they don't really have that confidence all the time. They build enough evidence through experiencing to trust themselves when life is difficult. So when they have that trust within themselves, it does change the way they speak to themselves. Instead of listening to that voice that says, I can't do this or I'm going to fail, they replace that thought with things like, I've got this, keep going, I can handle whatever happens. So if you think about the athletes before they go to a competition, they don't focus on everything that could go wrong. They encourage themselves. They stay focused on what they trained for. They remind themselves that they are capable. That positive self-talk doesn't guarantee the success. It helps them perform that at their best. So I think mental fitness, it works exactly in the same way. So it's about choosing to back yourself even when your mind is trying to convince you otherwise. Do you believe that everyone experiences self-doubt at times, or have you ever struggled with it?
Definitely. I think it's a normal thing to experience when, especially, you want to have these big dreams, big ambitions. It's about, I think, how you take it. If you if you sort of believe it, that's the wrong route. But if you acknowledge it and then understand, okay, this is what it is. This is that self doubt feeling, but you back yourself by being okay. That might be a challenge. However, again, big risk is big reward. So I think it's how you go outside of it. It's exactly, you're stepping out of your comfort zone, but are you going to stay in that zone, being uncomfortable, facing that challenge, or are you going to truly, well, just say, okay, I've had enough of that. I'm going to go back to the easy way.
And when there are those moments of self-doubt do come up, how would you mentally reassure yourself and, keep moving forward?
Well, you need to sort of not only, I believe, tell yourself, okay, you got this, but you need to believe it. You need to find ways in how you are able to develop it, because I believe that you can tell yourself anything, but at the same time, it's about believing it. That's the crucial part, because we can tell ourselves, okay, I've overcome this challenge before, but now this is more difficult. No, I think more you need to see it as, okay, this is the challenge now that I'm facing. How can I overcome it? The moment you start telling yourself, well, everyone else has overcome it, I can't, how will I do it? This is too difficult. That's when you start to, I believe, not have that mental reassurance. You need to just constantly tell yourself you got this. Even plan it. Just take it day by day. Just create a day by day plan for how you're gonna achieve it. How do you believe that self love differs from sort of having a big ego?
Self love is about recognizing your own worth without the need to prove that you are better than anyone else. But ego, on the other hand, it relies on the comparison and external validation. So, growing up, many people are taught that they should not celebrate their achievements just because they're worried about having to appear arrogant. But over time, some people they begin to associate that confidence with boasting. So they downplay their success instead of appreciating how far they came. Healthy self-love, it allows you to say, I'm proud of myself without actually celebrating other people's achievements too. Healthy self-esteem is internally driven. If there is a inflated ego, it often depends on, how someone compares themselves to others, and true confidence is quiet. It doesn't really need constant validation. And it is interesting because confidence is often misunderstood. So have you ever mistaken confidence for ego, or you thought that someone else had?
I believe when I was younger, it's obviously when you're wanting to be confident and celebrate your achievements, you've won a football game, you've won whatever, badminton game, that's when you show that confidence of, yes, I got this. But then obviously a lot of people will think you're boasting. That's the real, I think, comparison that when you're younger and you celebrate, people think you're boasting, but you truly in yourself have, that's how you build confidence. Obviously, when you grow up, I think people are more seeing it differently, that you're actually celebrating yourself, whereas I feel boasting I feel is negative. It's when you put down others. It's when there's always that line of I've got this and you didn't. But I feel ego, it's an insecurity. It means you need to prove that you're better than everyone. It means you need to show everyone that this is why I'm better than you, because you feel you're not. Whereas, exactly, confidence is you feel you're better than yourself. So you're having a competition internally for how you can be better, not with others. And what do you believe is one piece of advice that everyone needs to hear?
Biggest piece of advice I would say is don't give up. Don't give up on something just because no one believes in it. So there is every meaningful achievement. It started with someone taking the chance despite them being uncertain. If you always wait for everyone else's approval before you take that action, you will probably spend your life waiting. So psychology shows that confidence, it comes after the action, not before it. We tend to think that we need to feel ready first, but in reality, it's by taking those small steps and seeing ourselves succeed, which will make the confidence grow. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of that journey towards it. The only guaranteed way is not to succeed, is to never try. And believing in yourself is one thing, but it can be much harder when people around you don't. So, what if everyone tells you your dream is impossible? What would you say?
I would say see it as constructive advice. See it more as them expressing that that they don't want you to be hurt when you say when it doesn't work out. However, I would say find ways to make it possible, because at the end of the day, we all go through life where people say this is impossible. But if you can truly find yourself one thing out of that dream to make it possible, then just use it, do it. At the end of the day, you will never regret trying something. You will regret obviously not trying it.
If you choose not to let other people's opinions stop you, there will still be those difficult moments. So, how would you know to keep on going?
First of all, you need to ask yourself, why are you doing this? So take that challenge and see, okay, it's getting difficult now. Why did I first start doing it? If you can't, however, find a reason and you think, okay, this might not work, what else can I do? I think it's also good to know when you need to change something. You shouldn't, again, keep doing something that doesn't work. That's not the point here. It's how can you do everything to change it to work, but also know when it doesn't work and you say need to try something else. We talk about resilience and challenges, but I think it's important to have inspirational people that inspire you. So, who do you believe is your biggest inspiration, and how have they then helped you become more resilient?
My biggest inspiration, I would say, is Afnan Khalifa. So
Mm.
she's a YouTuber and a content creator. She shares videos about discipline, confidence, personal growth. What inspires me about her is she has that positive mindset that she promotes. She speaks about self discipline, self belief, consistency, and having that courage to pursue your goals, even if other people they do not understand or support them. While watching her content, she helps me realize that resilience is not about struggling, it's about continuing despite that struggle. Whenever I experienced setbacks or doubted myself, her perspective reminded me to trust the process rather than just focus on temporary obstacles. The social learning theory it explains that we learn behaviors, attitudes, and ways of coping by observing the role models. It also connects to self efficacy, and self efficacy is the belief in our own ability to succeed. Listening to that positive, disciplined messages consistently strengthened my own belief that I can overcome the challenges too. Inspiration is not about how famous someone is. It's about the impacts that they had on the way I think and approach life.
So, what do you believe makes her different from other creators?
What makes her stand out to me is she doesn't just talk about success, she talks about the mindset that it takes to achieve it. She focuses on discipline, consistency, self belief, taking responsibility for your own growth. And rather than just waiting for that perfect moment or blaming your circumstances, she encourages people to take ownerships of their lives. I think that's what really makes her message so powerful. It's very realistic. It reminds you that lasting change starts with the choices that you make every day and taking that step every single day.
What would you say that is something though the a video or message that she really said that sort of stayed with you even to this day that you really truly just take inspiration from?
The one message that always stayed with me from her is you don't need to feel ready before you start. She always says that action creates that confidence. And I think a lot of people they wait until they feel fearless or they are completely prepared before they chase that goal. But in reality, that moment will never come. The more likely you take the action and the more you do take that action, the more experience you will gain. And that is when the confidence comes. So I think this highlights something bigger. Do you have any role models that are important when it comes to building resilience or confidence?
So I believe that, well, people like, for example, Jay Shetty, they're very good because they tell you how do you want to shape your life. They don't tell you how to shape it. They more ask you questions. They don't tell you to go down this pathway. They tell you create that pathway you want to go down on. Because I think a lot of people who inspire tell you what pathway you should go on and that pathway will be successful. However, they forget that we're all different. Not everyone will work best at that pathway that they've given. Not everyone will want to work down that pathway. Whereas he tells you, well, look, that those people, say for example, that are not doing you well, why are they your friends? For example. Or another example he said was the people that frustrate you will teach you the most about yourself. That's not something that people usually say. People say be around people that give you good energy, make you happy. So I like how he really makes you think about not only your life but the people you surround yourself with. What is your favorite line to tell yourself when you're worried?
I always say to myself, I don't need that certainty to take action. I just need the courage to take that next step.
Mm.
And there are very few moments in life where we all feel that we have complete uncertainty. If we always wait until we feel 100% ready, we will often miss these opportunities. Our thoughts are not always the facts. Feeling afraid doesn't mean that we are incapable. It simply means that we are doing something that matters to us. I've learned that confidence it often grows through action. Every time I do take that next step, despite despite me feeling uncertain, I build more trust in myself for the future and it helps me to grow.
So, would you say you believe that sentence every time and that helps you develop that mindset?
I wouldn't say every single time. There have been days where it's usually harder than others. I do still have the experience I still do experience moments of doubts and worry just like everyone else. But whenever I repeat that sentence, it helps me shift my focus away from everything that I cannot control and back to what I can control. It reminds me that fear is a normal part of, stepping outside your comfort zone. It doesn't mean that you should stop. I realize courage isn't the absence of fear, is more choosing to take the next step despite it.
So, what would you then say is the best challenge you've accomplished?
One of the biggest challenges I've accomplished is pushing through the moments where I genuinely doubted myself instead of letting those doubts stop me. I learned setbacks aren't signs that you are failing. They are those opportunities that they give you those opportunities to learn, adapt, and come back stronger. Every challenge that I have overcome gave me evidence that I am capable of handling future difficulties. Psychology usually refers to these as mastery experiences. Every time we do overcome something difficult, our confidence grows because we proved to ourselves that we can do hard things. So looking back, the biggest achievement is not the outcome itself. It's more becoming the kind of person who keeps on going, even when things they do not go to plan. Talking about these challenges that can help us grow, what would you believe is the hardest part of overcoming a challenge?
Well, I believe it's constantly trusting yourself because it's easy to do things once. We can say, okay, say I trust myself to lock up and close down the place that you work at. That's doing it once, but I feel the moment you do it twice, that's when there's a voice inside of your brain that keeps asking you, but did you really do everything? So the hardest part, I believe, is really constantly assuring, yes, 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 I've done everything. No need to worry about anything. Because at the end of the day, the more you accomplish that mindset, the more it will go away. And there's also a reason why they say it takes 1 month to accomplish everything. Because within the first week, it's easy, but then the more you start doing it, the more there'll be fear. It doesn't just go away within that first week. I believe it will go away within that month. You will still have it, but it won't be as strong. So, what advice would you then give to someone who just keeps doubting themselves?
Tell them that self belief is not something that you are born with, it's something that you build over time. You don't need to wait until you're full 100% confidence before you take that action. Start small, even if it's something very small, and then every promise that you keep to yourself will become that evidence that you are capable. The more successful experiences that we have, even the small ones, the more our confidence will grow. If you've spent years telling yourself that you cannot do something, you won't change that belief overnight. But every small success challenges that old belief, and it will begin to create a new pattern of confidence. Your mind believes that evidence you repeatedly give it. So give it the evidence that you are capable. And if self belief is something that we build over time, what do you think is the very first step in believing yourself?
So, obviously, I believe the first step is you need to first of all trust yourself. You need to know, okay, what you're doing. You also need to know how you're going to do it. And I believe it's always good to plan. So, have a plan, mental plan of this is why I'm doing it. Okay, this setback might happen, but this is how I will overcome that setback. The moment I believe that we start following through and believing it, our brain immediately sends the message that, okay, we're now believing. We're telling ourselves now we can believe it. Now we can start doing it. So I would say that's the first step.
Some people might be listening and thinking, you know, that's great, but I do not have the confidence, what would you really say to them?
I think confidence isn't something that you wait for. It's not like you're gonna wake up one morning and be confident. So stop waiting and just take action. Find that way of, okay, I've been, say, scared of heights. Let me go on this roller coaster. Just overcome that challenge, because the moment you do it, the confidence will kick in. The moment you overcome any challenge, you will feel more confident. It's not that you get confident and then you do a challenge. It's the other way around, which I think people don't always understand. Taking this all in, what do you believe is then the definition of a champion mindset?
To me, a champion mindset is not always about winning. It's refusing to let the setbacks define who you are. Every champion, they still experience fear, doubt, disappointment, but there is a difference that they don't let those feelings stop them from moving forward. They see the failure as feedback rather than as proof that they are not good enough. The concept of growth mindset explains that there are people who believe the abilities they are born with can improve through effort, and they are more likely to persevere and succeed. And the champion believes in themselves even when success is not immediate. They stay disciplined, keep learning, adapt when necessary. They continue to show up. In my opinion, that is what true resilience looks like. And it makes me wonder though, when we look at people, do we consider champions, are they born with that mindset, or is it something that they develop over time?
I believe they are made really over time, because, as said, some of the greatest people and most mentally resilient people came from an environment where it was truly something that you would ask, how did you become mentally resilient? So yes, of course, if you come from an environment where you're always supported, where you're always allowed to make mistakes, fail, but then try again, that does help you grow mental resilience from a young age. But I think you can't be born with anything, because if you come from a background where your parents have succeeded, I think that then makes you believe you can succeed without even trying anything. So that's why I think mental resilience, again, it's something that you create, because even when you're successful or your parents are successful, it can actually down your confidence and resilience. So obviously then it has to be made over time. So would you say failure is necessary in order to succeed?
I wouldn't say failure is something that people should aim for, but it is one of the greatest teachers. Failure, it gives us the feedback and it shows us that we can improve and helps us to grow. That is where the growth mindset often comes from and is so important. Instead of seeing that failure as proof that you are not capable, you can see it as part of the learning process. If there is someone with that fixed mindset and they believe they are born the way they often stop after one setback because because they see it as a reflection of their ability, and they can never go further to grow that ability. If there is someone with that growth mindset and they ask, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? I think that's how resilience is built. Most people, they become stronger not because of how life has been easy. It's because they chose to learn from the difficult moments instead of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being defined by them.
What do you believe that resilience means to you personally?
For me, resilience is believing no matter what challenges life puts in front of you, do not define how they don't define who you are or what you're doing or where you're going. It's accepting that difficult moments are part of your life. But if you refuse to let them become your identity or stop you moving forward, and resilience doesn't mean pretending that everything is okay or you never feel discouraged. It means that you allow yourself to feel those emotions and you learn from them, and then you choose to take that next step anyway. And I think it's about trusting that every setback has something to teach you, believing that growth is still impossible, even when things they do not go as planned. To me, resilience is choosing not to let one difficult chapter become that whole story in your life. And it makes me think how resilience can completely change the way we see ourselves and that world around us. So what is something that you've changed your mind about?
So I believe something I've changed my mind about is confidence. It's not something, again, as talked about before, you're born with. You need to grow it. It's really about taking action. It's saying to yourself, yes, I have done this. Yes, I can do this. It's finding ways you can rather than you can't. So obviously we have a comfort zone, but every time we take the step out by saying, when someone tells us, "Oh, but have you really done this? How, are you sure you're gonna really be successful?" You tell yourself yes. You tell them yes, and mentally, your brain already starts believing that I can do this. I can whatever. I can be successful. Whatever you want, that's your belief, and you don't even need to explain to them. But as long as you know that you can really go through that experience of not only really trusting yourself, but having that consistent confidence around, that's the most important thing. So, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it then be?
I would tell myself, stop worrying. Stop worrying so much about what other people think and people judging you. When we are younger, it is easy to let other people influence our decisions and our confidence and even, the goals that we set ourselves. But as I've grown older, I realized that most people are far more focused on their own lives than we imagine. I would also remind myself it's okay to make mistakes and, nothing has to be perfect. Some of the biggest lessons and opportunities for growth come from that we don't go to plan. And most importantly, I would say to myself, believe in yourself before the results are there and before the results come through. So you shouldn't wait for other people to validate your potential. Trust your own journey and keep showing up. You need to remember that the opinion that matters the most is the one that you have for yourself. And as we've came to the end of today's conversation, if there is one message that you wanted everyone listening to remember and take away with them, what would it be?
So, I believe people from this should take away that resilience isn't something you're born with, self confidence isn't something you're born with. Having this champion mindset, you're not born with it, but you can start from such a young age already knowing, well, okay, if I can believe in myself in those one things, okay, it might make me different. People will think you're crazy. Like, how can you believe this? How can you celebrate all those goals? But at the end of the day, the more you build that confidence, it will again sort of become those big accomplishments. It's like taking small steps. If you don't take those small steps, then you can't make those big steps. Because at the end of the day, we all need to feel like we're achieving something, but there's a process for it. With everything, there's a process we take. And I also want people to know that don't always think about how you wish the situation was. Your current situation now can be changed. Start today believing in yourself. Start today about refusing to let any of your struggles sort of determine your confidence. No, just keep on doing what you're doing and going down that pathway.